Okay, we're going to talk about the ukulele and getting started with the ukulele today. First thing is the tuning. The tuning, as you can see from the image attached to this video, the first string, which is near your chin, is a G, and then you have C, E, and A. Now, if you've never played a string instrument before, I would recommend you get a digital tuner. You can download these on a smartphone for free. The one I use is called G Strings, which I think is hilarious. But there are plenty of other apps available for free. Another thing you can do is, if you have access to YouTube, you can type in a search field at YouTube that says tuning ukulele, and you'll get someone who will just play each note one at a time and give you time to tune it. Now, when you tune one of these notes, it's a good idea to make sure your string starts below the pitch and lift up to the pitch that you want. And if you accidentally cross it, then drop down below and bring up again. The reason for that is you don't want any slack to get caught here behind the nut. When you loosen the string, you're kind of pushing slack into the string before it gets to the nut. And then the string will still loosen, but if you have slack caught up here behind the nut, then as you start playing, it'll pull that slack across the nut and loosen the string, which will drop your pitch. You don't have that problem if you loosen the pitch, loosen the frequency, loosen the string so that the frequency is low, and then tighten the string to pull the pitch up. Then there will never be any slack back here and you won't have that problem. My dog has fleas. My dog has fleas. Fleas is a good way to remember the pitches. Just kind of get them in your head for relative to each other, what they sound like. When you start playing, when you place your fingers on this fretboard, you want to place your finger behind the fret. So, like if I'm touching this string right here, which I need to do to play a C chord, if I touch right on the fret, it'll be muted or even buzzing. And as I slide my finger back towards the tuners, then gradually I will start getting a pitch that sounds good. And if I go too far, it'll start buzzing again if I'm back against that next fret. So you want to be whichever fret, the indicators when you look at a chord sheet will tell you to play between these two frets, to touch between these two frets. So I would recommend touch between them and then push your finger forward until you can feel that fret underneath the string, and that will give you a good tone. So you want to try and place all of your fingers when you play a chord. You want to try and place all of them right behind the fret, as close as you can to the fret without muting it or causing a buzz in the string. The first three chords we're going to use for these lessons are the C chord. And the C chord's easy. You only have to touch one place. You can use whichever finger you want. It's good to think about the chords you're moving to when you choose which finger you're using. So if I'm on a C chord and I'm going to be going to a G chord, this is where I will put my fingers. This is the only one that's doing anything. It's my ring finger on the third fret of the A string, which makes a C. So if I put this finger down behind it on the second fret, it doesn't do anything to the sound of my C chord. That finger can be off or on, it doesn't matter. But when I go to change to my G chord, that finger is creating a B, which I need on my G chord. And if I'm not a very experienced player, it's nice not to have to move that one finger. As I change to the G chord, that one finger doesn't have to move. It's already where it needs to be for the G chord. Okay, so the G chord, on the G chord you play an open G string. You play the D on a C string, which is second fret. Then you play a G on the E string, which is the third fret. And then you play a B on the A string, which is the second fret. That's the G chord. So we've learned C, we've learned G, and the last chord that you need for these first few lessons is F. You play the second fret on the G string, which makes an A. The C is open. The E string, you play the first fret, which gives you an F. And then the top string is an A already. That gives you a nice resonant F chord. The last thing we're going to talk about today is strumming. To strum this instrument, for this course, we're going to be using a kind of a mariachi style guitar strumming. There are lots of different ways to do strumming. Some people use a pick, some people use, I'm not sure exactly how it works, but there's a floppy single finger way that they play in Hawaii. That's very interesting. You can find information about that on YouTube. The way that I want us to play for this class is like the mariachis of Mexico, because it's a very strong rhythmic system for strumming. And what we're going to do is, to go downstroke, we're going to use the nails of these 2 or 3 of these fingers. You can use whichever you like, but it's going to be some of these fingers, the 4 fingers, use whichever combination of them you want. And you're going to strum down with your wrist. I'll give you a C chord here. And down with the wrist, and you're also going to extend your hand while you're going down to kind of brush the strings. You can brush them lightly, you can brush them heavily, you can use just your middle finger if you want to, middle and ring finger, or all 3, middle, ring, and index, or you can even throw the pinky in there if you really want to. I mostly use my middle and middle and ring fingers, 3 and 4 if you're talking about piano finger numbers. Then, once you've strummed down, if you want to strum coming back up, you're going to use your thumbnail. After you've strummed down, your hand's in a down position. My thumb is below the strings, so I just drag it back up on the strings. Maybe you can see this from the side a little bit better. So I go down with these, up with the thumb. And this technique allows me to go string player, but you get the idea. This down up motion is very natural, and your fingers, your wrist just flops back and forth, and then your fingers add to it just a little bit with these finger motions inside the wrist motion. It works very well for me, and I would recommend that you use it for this class. Last point I want to make is it's helpful if you stand your foot up just a little bit. Classical guitarists will put a footstool underneath their left foot to raise it up a little bit. And if possible, you want your body and your right forearm to hold the instrument in place so that your left hand is free to move around and it's not responsible for holding the instrument in position. Now my left thigh, you can't see it on the video, but my left thigh is higher than my right thigh. And that is sitting right in here on the instrument to help hold the instrument where it needs to be. You don't have to do that, but it does make it helpful. It is very helpful for allowing your left hand to move more freely. You can see how free it can move if it doesn't have to hold the instrument. If my thumb is holding the instrument up and I'm not using my thigh, then I have a lot more constraints on how my left arm can move and my left fingers can move consequently. Okay, that's an introduction to the ukulele.